When it comes to horror slashers, there's two different types of people. On one hand, there's people who fear the unstoppable force of Michael Myers, and then there are people who fear the dream invading terror of Freddy Krueger. The two most popular subgenres that catch this part are the slasher films and the supernatural horror films. Well, today, I figure that it would be a great idea to go over some of these psychologicals of fear and why they hit the obvious so differently. Slashers feel grounded, realistic, and physical, while supernatural horror, on the other hand, reaches into our imagination and confronts us with the unexplainable. By looking at these things, on how the two of these subgenres work, we can see why our fears respond so differently to a mass killer with a knife compared to a demon from beyond. So, let's break it down. Slasher films like Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Scream fears us because of their naturalism. Slasher films tap into a very relatable type of fear. It's the idea that someone's out there is hunting you. In Halloween 1978, Michael Myers stalks his victims slowly, silently, and relentlessly. His mask strips away any humanity, but his actions are deeply human, breaking into homes, lurking outside windows, and striking when least expected. This what makes slashers so effective. It makes the viewers feel like anything can happen outside your front door in real life. Unlike monsters or ghosts, slasher killers use ordinary weapons like a knife, a machete, or an axe. These are tools that anyone can grab from a kitchen drawer or a shed. That realism makes the violence more unsettling because it's grounded in our daily lives. Michael Myers stalking his victims, or Ghostface stalking and calling his victims, feel like things that can happen at any moment in the real world. Slashers use normal places such as suburban homes, summer camps, and even high schools, places where we're supposed to feel safe, and the killers are often human, and that makes them believable. The fear they generate feels crucial. It's an automatic emergency reaction, an idea that someone can be right outside your door with a knife, and we usually fear slashers because they take away the relief of everyday life. It reminds us of the dangers that seek the real world. The fear of slashers comes from proximity and vulnerability. You can see the killer and know that they're human, but you're often powerless to stop them. This turns the viewing experience into a test of adrenaline and survival instincts. Slasher makes us imagine, what would I do if that killer were in my neighborhood? That relatability is their greatest strength. Supernatural horror works on an entirely different level. The supernatural horror, by contrast, thrives on the fear of the unknown and the uncontrollable. Movies like The Exorcist confronts the audience with a demonic possession, a terror rooted in religion and the idea of losing one's soul. A Nightmare on Elm Street makes sleep the most natural, unavoidable act into a death trap through Freddy Krueger's dream attacks. Films like The Conjuring or The Ring terrifies us by suggesting the dark forces exist beyond our understanding. Waiting to intrude into our reality, we fear them all because there are unstoppable forces outside of our control. You can't outrun a demon, a curse, or a dream killer. These films go into primary fears in death, the afterlife, and the unknown. The terror here isn't just physical danger, but existential anxiety. The supernatural horror challenges us with the fear that reality is flimsy and that there are forces beyond our awareness that can destroy us. And at least with a slasher, you could possibly fight back, but with supernatural horror, it can leave you powerless without a choice. Supernatural horror also exploits our culture and spiritual fears. For religious audiences, the fear of possession or damnation strikes directly at our beliefs. For secular audiences, it still preys on the discomfort of not knowing what happens after death. Unlike slashers, which kills the body, supernatural horror threatens the soul, and that dread lingers on, long on, after the movie ends. The difference between slashers and supernatural horror lies in control. With slashers, the audience imagines themselves in a survival scenario. Could you run faster, hide better, outsmart the killer? The fear is rooted in vulnerability, but there is at least a sense that escape is possible. In this way, slashers are like adrenaline rushes because they trigger fight or flight responses in the viewers. Slashers generate a survival instinct. Our minds imagine, what will we do if someone chases us with a weapon? It's a fear of vulnerability in the real world. Supernatural horror, however, takes away the ability to control the reality of the situation. It doesn't matter how fast you run, you can't get away from Freddy Krueger in your dreams. You just can't fight back against him because he attacks in your dream where logic doesn't apply. You can't just leave your haunted houses in most films because the haunting follows you. This lack of agency makes supernatural horror more metaphysical. It asks us to consider not just our physical safety, but the possibility that reality itself is fragile and that there are the forces we can't understand or defend against. It doesn't matter how strong you are, you physically can't fight a demon. Slashers create fear through naturalism. Supernatural horror creates fear through a mystery. One makes us fear humanity, the other one makes us feel the unknown. One terror is based on survival, and the other is based on cosmic helplessness. Both slashers and natural horror are powerful because they create different angles in our fears. Slashers excel on the danger that can happen in the real world, while supernatural horror excels on the fear of what goes beyond it. In one, the terror is survival. On the other hand, it's helplessness. And that's why we fear them differently. Slashers stalk us when we walk home at night, while supernatural horror remains in our dreams and in our beliefs about the unknown. Together, they remind us that horror will always find a way, whether it's a killer in the shadows or the monster we can't see at all. And that's why we fear them both, but in different ways.